Today's piece was an estate sale find. I got it for $112.50. I went the second day. It did have some damage on the top. You can see it had a little bit of a failing finish, but overall, it's a solid cherry dresser. Now, solid cherry doesn't sell great in my area, so I'm going to try to neutralize some of that red. Did have a little bit of problem with that, but in the end, I'm really hoping that it's going to be a beautiful tone. So let's go. So here it is. It is beautiful. It's quite tall for a French Provincial. Very deep drawers. So you can tell the top has a lot of damage. It actually did have a glass on top, but for some reason there's a lot of damage. Nothing that, just the finish. It's not like it's gouges. I just need to strip it. And then you can see I have some issues here on the front. All of the hardware does need to be polished. Got something going on the doors here. Do have the nice dividers, which is great. There's my maker's mark. It's actually stamped inside and on the back. And so really overall in really great condition. I don't have anything. I do have a couple drawer guides that I'm missing. Actually, that's the problem with that one. The drawer guide is out. And so I do have it. It's just going to need to be tacked back in. That's why I have all of that movement. But overall, it's really in pretty good shape. I like it because I feel like it's a little bit more clean line than some French Provincials. It doesn't have a ton of extra ornamentation, just the beautiful curving drawers. I'll start by just taking off all the hardware. I like to put the screws back in the original pulls, and that makes sure it kind of keeps everything together. And then I'll go ahead and get it polished up later. So I always find little things in here, and this is one of the things I found. It was from Wolf Brothers. I don't know, it's all been a little receipt here. I don't have a date on it. But then I also have a sweet little letter for the mom and dad that I miss you very much. Do you miss me? It's really hot at camp. Is it hot there? My counselor name is Miss Penny and Miss Pam. Our cabin name is Wikakana. Our cabin is really far from where we eat. It is all up hills. Our cabin is real nice and clean with wood. There is one window by my bed and cool airs come in all the time. Tell Bill hi for me. Love, Ann. There's no date on it, but what a sweet little letter. Sometimes you find these things and gosh, I don't know when it was written. So fun little things. After the vacuum, then I'll go in with some Simple Green, which is a great little degreaser, and just make sure I give the whole thing a really good clean. Now I'm ready for the stripping process. I'm using Greenies. This is a non-toxic stripper. I'm just applying it with a chip brush. I'll let it set for an hour or so, let it do its thing, and then I'll come back and scrape it off. You can see I'm starting with a carbide scraper. This is my pocket scraper, so it works really good in some of the detailed areas. Then I'll come back with my larger carbide scraper and just scrape off as much of the stripper and then the finish as possible. My goal is to get down to raw wood, and so I'll just scrape off as much as I can, and then I'll wipe it off, come back with some acetone and some fine steel wool, and continue to work on getting that finish off.
Here I'm using some afterwash. This is also by Greenies. So after everything's off, you can spray that. Just kind of helps get additional residue off. Once that's all dried out, I'm ready to start the sanding process. So I'm using my Fest tool and I'm going to go over it with 80 grit. So that's going to get off any additional remaining finish that might be on there. Once I'm done with the sander, then I'm going to come back with hand sanding. I'll do 80 grit just to make sure there's no other finish left on there. And then I'll move up to 120 and 180. I do this by hand sanding because honestly, the finish is gone at this point. So all I'm really doing is I'm refining my scratch pattern. For this one, I'm going to finish off with 220, then I'll clean it with a 50-50 mixture of denatured alcohol and water. I'm going to do the same process on the top and on the frame that I did on the drawers. Okay, it is fully sanded and cleaned. And so I've cleaned it all off with the 50-50 mixture of denatured alcohol and water. And now I get to decide what I'm gonna do with it. So if I put a little bit of liquid on it, it'll kind of give me an idea of what it would look like if I just clear coated it. So you can see how red that is. And so obviously it is cherry, and so it's gonna be red, but I have to decide, are my clients going to purchase a cherry dresser? It's hard. It's a hard decision. So now I come to the part where I have to decide, how am I going to finish it? And this can be kind of an overwhelming part because there's so many options. I really think I need to tone down the red, and there's a few ways you can go about doing that. You could do a green wash with paint, diluted paint, but I really don't want to obscure this grain, and I think that a paint wash might do that because it's a highly figured grain. So I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to do a dye stain that is green. This is by General Finishes. This is water-based, and I think I'm gonna just water it down because it's intense. So I may go with like a 50-50 water ratio and try that, see if it'll tone it down, and then I'll probably stain from there. So again, there's so many different options of things you could do. I could even add this to like a clear coat of de-wax shellac. I could put that on there. That would tone it down. So there's just a lot of options, and sometimes you just have to try one and see how you like it. So I might try it on the side first, just to make sure I'm liking it, and then before I put it on the entire dresser. So let's try it. So if you look at a color wheel, you'll see if I have red, the opposite of red on the color wheel is green. And so if I add green to red, that's gonna cancel the red. And so that's the theory. So if you have a color wheel, it's a great little opportunity to see what cancels what out. So it just depends on what you want to do. So we're gonna try the green dye stain and see how it works. Let's go. I'm gonna try it just down here on the bottom and see what I get when I put the green dye stain on. So this is just gonna be a little sampling, kind of get me an idea what it looks like. Definitely makes it more brown. It's dark, so I don't know if I want it to be quite that dark. So this is water-based. I'm gonna put some water on that, pull that out. Actually, I'm kind of liking it. I don't know. What do you think? It's definitely a brown. It's not red. That green just totally made it look brown. I don't know. What do you think? It's so weird. It's so, science is so weird. Green. How a green stain can make something look brown instead of red. Okay, I'm actually really liking that. So now the question is, do I continue? I think I'm gonna continue. Well, things were going really good until I got to this panel, and this is obviously not cherry.
Even though it's supposed to be a full cherry wood, it's green. And so this panel is going to have to be toned a little bit different. So I have a light brown dye stain, and I have medium brown dye stain. So I'm going to try one of those on just this middle section. But I'm loving the tone that I'm getting on the rest of the actual cherry. It's really beautiful. So we're just going to trust the process and keep going. Okay, I'm going to continue on the top. I was a little nervous because the sides didn't turn out as great as I was hoping, but this is just my first coat. Obviously, if I have to tone it, I will. My goal is just, I'm just trying to cut down the red. So I can come back with another dye stain and tone it if I need to. And so I think what it is cherry has these white streaks in it. And I think that is what's pulling different. At first I thought, oh, well, it's not cherry on the sides. But I think it is. I think it's just the variations in the wood are pulling different. And so, like, the first pass here was beautiful. And then this second pass, I've got an area that's just completely different. And so the reason I thought dye stain would look good is because dye stain looks really good on highly figured wood. And so I thought it would be really beautiful to bring out the grain pattern. And so tapping the dye stain, you're kind of a one and done. Now you're not done because you can come back and layer your dye stains. I could layer a stain on top of this. I could tone it. So you're not done, but it does sink so deeply into the wood that you're kind of done. It's not like you're going to get any lighter, so you have to be okay with that, and I am. So anyway, let me just keep going here.
So for the drawers, I decided I'm going to water this down about 50-50, put a little bit of water in with the dye stain, and I'm going to do a less concentration. So you see how green it is. And so I thought, oh goodness, I don't want it that green. So the body is all green, especially once it dried. And when I initially put it on, it looked really great. It looked brown, but as it dried more green. So I don't know if it's because the water evaporated or what, but I'm trying to kind of tone it down a little bit on the drawers. And so because of that, though, you'll see later that I have two-toned, so I didn't match them. You can see how green it is still. So I'm going to try the light brown dye stain and see if we can get a little bit more red back in it since it looks so green.
All right, well, here it is this morning. You can see the really crazy variations of the grain. on the drawers. So that's after a green wash and then light brown dye stain. The top, in person, it looks a little bit more green than this. You can see the variations right here. I do think it's all cherry. I think what it is it's just cut from different, sections, and that's why it has these, varying tones. Because at first I thought this was not cherry, the inside panel, but I think it is. It's just maybe from a different part of the tree. I don't know. So I have a couple ideas of what I can do. So definitely needs to be toned. I've already done the light brown dye stain. It wasn't enough. So I think I'm going to pivot to either a water-based stain and do a wash, or I'm going to pivot to oil-based gel stain. Now you can layer water-based and oil-based, but there's a time variation. So you have to wait a good 12 to 24 hours before you put oil over water. But you have to wait like 3 days, like 72 hours before you put water over oil. So I'm okay. I can put oil over the water-based dye stain that I used. And so, I could tone it with, de-wax shellac mixed in with some, dye stain. The options are endless, but sometimes it comes down to the products that I have on hand. And so I think I'm going to start with nutmeg because it has a little bit more of a orangey red to it, to put some more red back in the top that's too green. And it's a very rich color, so I think it'll kind of richen it up a little bit. But I'll probably do a small sample on the side first. So I don't know, sometimes I get stuff stuck in my head. I just did a cherry dresser and I did a green wash with paint, and then I went with a real light paint wash on top, so it turned out really light. And it was pretty, but that just wasn't the look I was going for on this piece. But now it's super dark, and so now I'm not sure. But dark is in, it'll be beautiful. Let's go.
This is General Finishes gel stain in the color Nutmeg, and we're going to try it on the body of the piece.
Okay, here it is after one coat of the nutmeg. I'm loving it. I think I may have to come back around this area. It still looks a little green, and do another coat, but in person, it's really coming closer to the tone I'm looking for. So it's kind of hard to tell. It's not very bright outside. You can see there's that weird variation. So anyway, I may have to come back and do some toning or another coat, but it's looking better. Now I'm ready to do the drawers. Now they are different because I only did half strength on these, so I don't think the nutmeg full strength is going to be good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a little bit of antique walnut and see if that will give me the tone I want. So here's the antique walnut. You can see it has a lot of brown in it, kind of a cooler brown, which is good because that's kind of what I want for this. So what I'm thinking about doing is doing maybe 3 parts of the antique walnut and then 1 part of the nutmeg, because you can see that's still very red. Even though I did a diluted green wash, so I don't want to put too much nutmeg on. So that's why I was thinking either 2 to 1 or 3 to 1. But I'm gonna start with 3 to 1. Sometimes it's just experimenting. You can see how much more red the nutmeg is. So there's a nice, I feel like that's a nice brown with a nice richness. So let's try it. If I don't like it, I can always take it right off with some mineral spirits. It's the nice thing about gel stain. Okay, let me just do that part right there and see what that gives me. It's actually a pretty close match. I do like that. I like it, but I think it's just a tad too dark. So I'm going to do one more part of nutmeg just to brighten it up a bit and see if I like that. I think that is a much better tone, definitely compared to all of that. Not quite as dark as just the 3 parts of the antique walnut. I think it brightens it up just a bit to give the nutmeg, but I still think it'll go really well with the body. So you can still see the highly figured wood, which is beautiful. I mean, it'll look a lot different when I put the top coat on too. So I'm happy with this. I'm gonna keep going. Okay, I'm gonna try one more coat right here with the nutmeg. I'm gonna go in with just a tiny brush. I'm trying to try just to get this area, because I really feel like this is the only area that really needs it. Okay, let's see if that will give me a little less green. Sure if that did anything or not, but it looks good. It's hard to tell in the light. Right, I think I'll just do it around the perimeter and see if I can tone that a little bit more. Okay, here it is after one coat of the nutmeg, and honestly, I think it looks really good. I really am loving this tone. And then here's the drawers. This is with 3 parts of the antique walnut and 2 parts of the nutmeg, and I think it blends really good with the dresser. Okay, so we averted a crisis here. So I'm gonna kind of let it dry, see if I like the tone. I'll put the drawers back in and see what it looks like.
So once that dried overnight, I was ready to seal it. So I'm just gonna kind of go in, seal it, see what it looks like, make sure all the tones work. This is an oil-based polyurethane in a flat finish. After the sealing, I did feel like the drawers still needed a little bit of color correction. So I'm just going to give it a slight little scuff sand, and I'm going to go over it with just nutmeg. And so I think that will help blend it. I'm going to blend a little bit more of the frame as well. And I think that will be my final color. So we'll see. For my hardware, I like to always soak all of my hardware in boiled water, baking soda, and vinegar. I like to set that, let it kind of set for a few hours or overnight, and just kind of let it kind of eat away at that tarnish. And then once that's done, then I'll come back and polish it. I'm happy with that color, so now I'm going to do 2 more coats of my polyurethane.
So I've soaked my hardware in boiled water, vinegar, and some baking soda. Now I'm using Barkeeper's Friend. I like to use the powder, but you can also use the liquid. I like to use this one because it feels like it has just a little bit more abrasive, so it kind of gets in some of those areas. And then I'm using a brush here, just kind of a soft brush to get into all of these little detailed areas. Dipping my brush into a little bit of water seems to kind of help get some of that residue off. One more thing on these, I'm going to hit them with a little bit of steel wool. So the brush gets really good and get into the details, but the steel wool, this is 4-aught. It does
a great job of hitting all these high points and really making it shine. So here's the before and here's the after. Definitely an improvement.
I bought a new wallpaper to try out. This is a peel and stick wallpaper. So let's open it up. It's a beautiful kind of a botanical design. Has like dark green and light green, kind of like a reddish, kind of a rusty color, some yellows. Really beautiful. It has the grids on the back, which is really helpful when you're trying to measure something. We're going to line this drawer.
Well, let's look back at this piece where we started. You remember the damage I had on top. After doing a full refinish, I know I had some problems with that dye stain, but here's the finished tone. I really love it. Just shows you that just with dye stain, you're not necessarily one and done. You can go ahead and add, you can layer, you can tone. And so that's what we did with this piece. This is definitely the tone I had in mind when I was starting out. And I love the matte polyurethane. I think it just kind of pulls everything together. I really love that I can see those varying wood tones on the drawers because that's beautiful wood tone. And so I really wanted to kind of highlight that. And I think it did. And isn't that drawer liner perfect for this style? I absolutely love it. So tell me what you think in the comments. I need to list this locally and on Etsy. I'm kind of thinking $1,500, but you have to tell me, do you like this tone? Do you think that's a good price? Tell me in the comments, and thanks so much for watching.